you still be happy? You can do whatever you like. You don't have to be ready. You just gotta trust the right. Don't have to be scary.
Hello and welcome to the new and improved Beginner Pilates series for 2023. My name is Margaret and I am a certified Pilates instructor. I will be moving you through this entire series. This first week of beginner classes is all pre-Pilates exercises. Today we're going to be talking a lot about the alignment of our body, and we'll focus on finding different landmark points in our body so that we can continue to develop our mind-body and mind-muscle connection. Just like how we started the first class, let's come down to our mat and find a seated position. That seated position can be up to you. I prefer to go cross-legged, but you can also sit with your legs out in front of you. You can sit up against a wall so you have some support through the back body. You can sit in a long butterfly. The important thing is that you are comfortable, so you get to make the decision for yourself wherever you want to sit. Before we start to breathe, I want you to take your hands either to the tops of your legs or down by your sides if your legs are not cross-legged. Roll the shoulders down and back. And let's do that one more time. Big roll of the shoulders. Lift them up towards your ears. Roll them down and back. And think about opening up through the front of the body, finding space from shoulder to shoulder. Now check in with your hips. Can you feel your right hip pressing down into the mat? Can you feel your left hip pressing down into the mat? Can you keep your hips evenly pressing into the mat? Okay, we'll take 4 deep breaths from here. Same kind of breathing that we practiced yesterday. Inhale through your nose. And exhale out through your mouth, let it go. Good, inhale through your nose. As you exhale, think about pulling your belly button back. Good, inhale through your nose. This time on your exhale, think about bringing hips and rib cage closer to each other. I almost always say hibs. Hibs, like ribs and hips. One more, inhale through your nose. Good, and then exhale out. We bring hips and rib cage closer. We sink the belly button back. Perfect. Okay, with that last one, if you can get in front of a mirror for this class, it's going to be pretty helpful for you so you can see a couple different points that I'm talking about. So I have a mirror right over here to my side. You may be able to see it. I think you can see most of it in the video. Hands are coming to the tops of your legs. I want you to roll your shoulders down and back, and then look over to your side in the mirror. Can you see, and I'm going to turn this way so you can see the side of my body. When you look over to the side, what do you see happening in your body? Do you see your chest pulling forward? Do you see your butt kind of curving back? Do you see a curve in your spine at all? Can you try and bring things in so that you are stacked in a straight line, like you're right up against a wall? Just check in, try to get your shoulders so that they're right on top of your hips. And feel those 2 points, see where they are. Are your shoulders leaning a little bit forward? Are your shoulders maybe rounding a little bit forward? Can you open them up and really get shoulders on top of hips? Okay, can you take your hands to your rib cage, like how we did with our breathing exercises? Hands to the rib cage, right about here, and it's not like on your boob, it's a little bit lower than that. So right about where the strap is on your sports bra, that's where your thumb hits. Now just hang on to the rib cage there and just see where that is. Just see where it is. It sounds so stupid to say that, see where it is. It's like, it's obviously where the rib cage is, but see how that feels, and do you feel connected into that part of your body? Are you aware of how that part of your body is moving? Okay, can you get the rib cage so that your rib cage is right on top of your hips? Sometimes if you're able to see yourself in a mirror, you can look over your shoulder. Sometimes the rib cage likes to open and push forward. Sometimes it likes to kind of hinge back a little bit and we roll a little bit off the hips and we're sitting like this. So can you bring your rib cage right on top of your hips? Can you press down into your hips and keep your shoulders stacked right on top of your hips? Ideally, this is how we want to be aligned when we are in a seated position. We have the hips that are our anchor point to the mat, and you'll hear me say anchor point probably more than one time throughout this series. So the back of the hips is what's anchoring us to the mat. That's the connection point that we focus on, and we try to keep our hips pressed down to the mat no matter what movements we add on through the upper body, okay? Rib cage stacked right over the hips. shoulders stacked right over the hips. Okay, so you've got a nice long line from the crown of your head all the way down your spine, all the way into your tailbone, and then into the mat. Okay, and that's where things are going to stay. This is what it'll look like in seated. If we come into another position, say we go down all the way onto our back, extend your legs in front of you, hands behind the legs, you're going to bring it all the way down, and it doesn't have to be beautiful, it doesn't have to be perfect. We'll move through these exercises going down and up in a little bit, but when you come down to your mat, now what do you feel? Now we have different contact points with the mat, so we can feel the feet, we can feel the hips can still anchor us to the mat, but we can also feel the back side of our body pressing into the mat. We get backs of the shoulders, triceps, hands pressing into the mat. See what that feels like to press those things down into the mat. Do you feel more connected to your mat or to the ground? Do you feel more connected into your body? Like, can you feel those muscles moving? Okay, now same placement here, right? We have the hips anchoring down to the mat. On top of your hips, you have your rib cage. Okay, so if your rib cage were not in line with your hips, that means you're either arching your back and now your rib cage is a little bit behind your hips, or you're curving a little bit too far forward, so now the hips are kind of out of whack with the rib cage. So we want to find what is our neutral position with our spine. And it's the same alignment we just talked about in seated. Hips and rib cage in line. And the best way to find that, we talked about it in our breathing video, finding the front points of the hips, finding the bottom points of the rib cage, and getting those points in line. And I'll come up into a different position and show you this as well, so you can see it from a front view. But those 2 points are in line. That's how you know hips and rib cage are where they need to be. Shoulders, when we're laying down like this, your shoulders are pretty much naturally in line with your hips, but we should be able to feel the backs of the shoulders and the backs of the hips pressing into the mat. Now, if you can't feel those things, or if you're not sure, I want you to take your hands, bring your hands to your hips, feel for that bony part of your hip, okay? And then think about moving the hips that way. So curving forward and curling back. Again, the same kind of thing we did in our breathing video to find where our neutral spine and neutral pelvis are. That bony part at the front of your hip is a good landmark point to know. If you're not sure where your rib cage is, that's okay. I don't expect you to be an expert in anatomy. Your rib cage is about an inch or so above your belly button. That's where the bottom 2 points of your rib cage are, and they're on either side, right? So we can feel those 2 points, and you should be able to touch them both at one time, or you can do one hand on one side and one hand on the other if you can't touch them both at one time, and that's okay. So we get those points in line with each other, and that's how we find our neutral position down here, laying down on our back. Okay. Another position I'm going to show you is up in kneeling. So walk your feet a little bit away from you. Take your hands towards the tops of your legs. You're going to roll yourself up, and it doesn't have to be perfect, right? We're going to continue to work on that as we move throughout these classes, so don't feel like that needed to be perfect. You'll bring yourself so that you come up onto your knees. Okay, knees go about hips distance apart, and I think oftentimes many of us think our hips are much wider than they are. So again, we find those 2 bony parts at the front of our hip. Okay, that's going to be hips distance. So if your knees are wider than that, we've gone too far. Knees directly under the hips. Now we get to bring in a different contact point. Knees directly in line with your hips, and you can see, hopefully you can see from this side, my spine kind of curves back naturally, right? Can you see that happening? How my butt kind of pops back? I get this curve right here. So what I like to do when I come into a kneeling position like this is take one hand to my lower belly, one hand to my lower back, and I like to physically tilt my hips so that my hips and my rib cage come in line. That is what I would call a tuck of the tailbone, okay? It's literally a tuck under. You're bringing hips and rib cage in line, and from the front, we're bringing hips and rib cage in line. So take a second. Up here in kneeling, bring one hand to your low belly, one hand to your back. Let your hips tilt forward, let your back arch, and see what that feels like. You can let your belly button press into your hand, and then tuck your tailbone under. So hips and rib cage come in line, and you can feel that curve through the back of your body go away. We'll do that twice more. Inhale, you'll arch. Same thing that we did laying down on the mat. And then exhale, you'll come back in. One more. Inhale as you arch. You're letting the front of the body expand, finding space from rib cage to hip point. And then exhale, we press all that air out. Good, and you find your neutral spine. When you're in your neutral position, we should be able to feel the front of the body, what we think of as our six-pack abs. We should be able to feel those muscles contract. Okay, so we pull rib cage towards the hips. We can feel our upper abs right here, maybe even the lower abs contracting a little bit, but I'd say most likely you'll feel kind of right here at the front of your body. Okay, so again, hips right on top of the knees, rib cage on top of the hips, shoulders on top of the hips. And if you can look at yourself from a side view, all of those things should be in line with each other. We'll continue to talk about the alignment of our spine and the alignment of our hips as we move throughout our classes. But the biggest thing that I want you to think about is finding where your neutral spine is and getting comfortable moving your hips or moving your spine in the way that you need to in order to achieve that neutral position. Something I also wanted to quickly touch on that we'll talk about again. So many people think of their core as just their six-pack abs, right? We hear the term core tossed around a lot. I want to educate you on that quickly. Your core is every part of your body that isn't your arms or your legs. So your core is right here, the front of your body. It's your six-pack abs. It's your obliques, the sides of your body. It's your back, upper and lower back and middle back, everything that surrounds the spine. Your core includes your glutes. Your core includes your shoulders, but not your arms. And then your core includes kind of, the back of the neck. Your head doesn't really count, but it's everything from shoulders to about the hip points. We are working on training our core from like a 360 view. That's what Pilates is all about. It's not just ab training. Hopefully that was helpful to see what your alignment should be like and what you should be looking out for when we come into specific exercises. As we move throughout the other videos this week, we'll continue to talk about alignment. I know some of you had specific questions about neck alignment and neck placement when we get into specific ab exercises. We will go over that, but I wanted to talk about kind of the landmarks of the shoulders, the hips, and the rib cage, and how those should be lining up when we get into most exercises. Remember, you're awesome. You can do anything you put your mind to, and I will see you back here tomorrow for our next beginner Pilates video.